It's a quick live. I ain't gonna be on here too long, man. This wonderful, man. I was so happy about to get ready to leave. It was cool, man. I had a great turnout. My coach retirement party. I had to be in attendance, and the thing of it was, the crazy part about it is, with my coach retiring, you know, y'all can't see me because it's dark, man. The crazy part, you know, man, uh, 29 years. He's gonna still keep coaching. He's gonna hit his 30 next year. But retiring from the big show, 29 years, man, can't beat that. 29 years of being a coach. I had to get him a couple of cigars. He, had his own cigar shop, man, for a minute. And, unfortunate things happen. But hey, number one in my book, man. Between him and my other coaches, man, I had about three or four coaches, but hey, Coach Miller stand out, stand the test of time, always been number one in my book, and had a lot of guys call from deployment or either on military base. One of my friends, he was 4 hours away. The other, he's in Tokyo, so he couldn't come. So he's up in Fort Bragg, up in North Carolina. So it's just like, man, it's a lot of love for the guys that, showed out for him and, appreciated him for all his years, like military years of service. But man, it was great, man. Couldn't beat it, man. Family, all my brothers was there. All my wrestling brothers, man. Coaches came through. Past wrestlers. We had a couple of guys who wrestled before. I even got into wrestling. Came back. The coaches, they was there, man. It was like, man, love, all love. I couldn't have picked a better day to come. I was about to not come due to circumstance. I had to get a little work in, but man, I went on ahead and came, man. Hey, man, love. I'm gonna drop pictures of all of us later, man. Hey, the best, man. My coach retired. I couldn't ask for nothing better, man. You know, this guy devoted 29 years into wrestling, a high school coach. He motivated me to become the man I am. He motivated a lot of kids to get, their life together and, in the pursuit of happiness. So when it comes down to it, hands down, man, I had the great coach. I had the best coach. You know, years of service, 29 years. Couldn't ask for nothing better, man. When it came down to it, like I said, he did his thing, coached a lot of kids. He kept us on the straight and narrow. There was a lot of kids who pretty much at the end of the day, they was running streets, wilding out. Hey, as of right now, man, me making this recording, we got a dude right now in prison. Like two dudes serving time. Mishap, but hey, coach can't save everybody. You know, but the ones he did save, kept them out of trouble, did things right. Hey, shout out to coach for, dominating. Hit that like button, everybody in here. Appreciate it. But, like I said, with my coach, man, he was a great guy. Kept me out of trouble, man. Honestly, I always say knock on wood about that too, but never got arrested. Did it right, got married, had kids. This guy kept me on a straight and narrow. A lot of kids got messed up in high school, but sports kept, majority of the guys who really played sports, it kept them in line. And so I can't complain. The things that he did kept me in line, kept my grades. I couldn't fail classes because I did sports. So hey, I was into it. I was doing my thing. at the end of the day, speak for itself, man. I'm a grown man taking care of kids. I got my kids, got one of my boys in wrestling. My other son, he runs track with his other twin brother. He led me down the path of being a great role model. Hit that like button for everybody coming in. Like I said, just leaving my coach retirement party. Awesome guy, man. Hats off to him. Bought him a couple of cigars because he was real heavy in the cigars. So I bought him some cigars. What's going on now? What's going on with you? But like I said, man, at the end of the day, everything was cool, man. Didn't have no problems. Everybody came there accordingly. Had a nice food spread. But at the same time, like I said, it was kudos out to my coach, man. My coach did his thing. Time, what's going on, man? Hey, we here. We in the building. Yeah. Hey. No weapon shall form against me. It was written. It's written in the great book. And at the end of the day, man, like I said, celebrate my coach, man. I couldn't ask for nothing better. Man. This guy kept so many kids from doing the wrong thing, in which we did the right thing in order to succeed in life. A lot of kids, went down the wrong path. Some kids got kicked off the team, but it was a thing to not fail. Had one of the coaches that was there, he couldn't keep his kids in line in order to pass classes, but my coach took the initiative to get on us so hard to make us do better in school. And, like one of my coaches said, he was like, this is not about, wrestling. This is a way of life. We learned that wrestling is a way of life. And, having that situation to where you do good in life, pass, graduate, do things outside of wrestling, that was the biggest thing. Wrestling was just, to the point, like one of the referees that's there, Coach Pride, shout out to him, it's a brotherhood. He'd always stress to us, with Coach Johnson, it's a brotherhood. And, Miller was always there to, push us in the right direction. Like I said, man, there was a lot of kids that was going down the wrong path. And if it wasn't for him, reaching out to the parents, reaching out to the kids, trying to make them do better. Oh, police be going with that blue light. A lot of kids wouldn't be here right now. There's a lot of kids who suffer things in life in which, they kind of brought on themselves, and it gets to a point to where, knowledge is power. The more you learn, the more you actually don't make the same mistakes that your parents made or that you're going to make. You start understanding life a lot better, and, just this retirement party is making me focus on things that I need to with my kids in my life. Seeing his daughters there talking about they remember me. Man, these girls were like little babies. I remember they was like, man, 3rd grade, 2nd. I'm like, young. I remember little Shannon, he was probably 4 years old. Man, this guy was literally 4 years old when I first met him. And, it's up and down on the memory about remember me because it was years, man. I'm like, I was in this kid's life when he was like not even in high school. So anything in middle school, it's an up and down situation. And, that's when I was graduating. When he was just getting into just getting into elementary school. So that was the whole point. But his sisters remember me, man. Like, those are my, little sisters, literally, man. Those are my little sisters to this day. I didn't have nothing but one older sister growing up. Those are my little sisters, man. And that's the thing, man. Shout out to everybody. Raining Woman, what's going on with you? Bud Files in the building. Raining Woman, where you been? You been across the pond and come back, shout out to you. Shout out to you. You know, like I said, it's short right quick, man. Just, giving kudos to my coach. He just retired, 29 years as a wrestling coach, and the things he provided for me and other kids, within my community and my neighborhood, the opportunity to make it out. That's like the biggest thing, where a lot of kids don't know the direction, where to go, how to make it. He made an opportunity for a lot of kids to make it out of their situations and make things better for themselves. But it was mainly up to them to, take that next step. So, like I said, kudos to him, man. He did what he could to provide, certain things for us to do better, to be better, and I appreciate him for it. Same rule applies to the kids who, didn't really make it, but you had the opportunity just like me. Like I said, Rael, what's going on, man? Shout out. Like I said, man, my coach, he just retired, 29 years. Put things in perspective. He opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for us. We could have been the kids that, slipped through the cracks and, did the worst. But we were the kids that slipped through the cracks and made it, no flaws, no issues. We did everything right. We did it by the book. We stood the test of time and did things right. So, in the end, it was a lot of greatness that came from wrestling because, like I said, it was a brotherhood. I talk to guys to this day, as soon as I talk about wrestling, that's the first thing they talk about. Man, the practice was hard. It was intense. But the guys who was in Decatur, who knew me, knew my coach, knew the area, they knew we didn't play. And my coach, we got so heated to the point where we was about to put money on the line. That's how bad we get when we get around each other, because that ego kicks in and nobody can beat anybody. So, we got to put money where our mouth is. So, shout out that it didn't get as bad as that, but to the point, man, it got to the point where, we was all like, what's going on, Ray? It got to the point, man, we was getting like, hey, I can beat you. Then there were kids from other schools came because Coach Miller, he invited a lot of kids to do better and be better within DeKalb County and in Decatur, Georgia. So, hey, it was always a thing to where we were, the best, to where we had to prove ourselves with other kids, and hey, we had to show and prove. And we did that every year. My last year we got, I think it was fourth at state. The year before that they got third or second at, I think they got third at state. And we was always gradually getting better, making ourselves, to the point of being better. And, overall, like I said, man, I got my kids into sports. One of my sons, he wrestled. The other one, he runs track with his brother as well. And, dealing with those situations, man, it helps you build. And y'all check this out, man. There's a coach at my old school. He came back to coaching basketball. He ended up getting in trouble. It's all over the news. A guy by the name of Coach McQuarrie at Columbia High School in Decatur. Big on the news. He whipped the kid with a sandal. So this kid ended up ordering a prostitute, and they was in the Bahamas. He ordered a prostitute, had a prostitute come to the room and tried to have sex with the prostitute, while the other kids were running around knocking on doors, playing that little game. And the crazy part is the front desk called the coach, let him know what was going on. He caught the kid with the prostitute in the room. He ended up whipping the kid with his sandal and gave him 3 licks on his butt. Told him to put on his pants. He had his underwear on. And he gave him 3 licks on his butt. One of the other kids' coat when the other kid's mom called in on him. And the crazy thing was, if this kid would have got that woman pregnant, it'd have been a lot worse. To the point where a lot of these kids were, just doing some like bad stuff, like mischievous stuff, man. And I'm like, this guy had to resign, even though he wouldn't have got in trouble, because it was some foreign soil. They wasn't in America, but you still look at it as corporal punishment. He was an old coach, grew up old ways of doing things. I had him for math at Columbia High School. He taught on a college standard to where you write a problem down and that's it. No explaining. He read the book. And, he was just straightforward. And it was just crazy just to seeing this whole thing about him on the news, being a child. And they played it way worse than what it was. All he did was hit the kid with a sandal on his butt 3 times. Don't you know how bad it would have been if he would have caught him in the motion of actually having sex? You know how many parents would have got mad at him because their child has sex and got a woman pregnant? That's why I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, this guy did what the mother or father should have did. I was just talking to my coach, and kudos to me. He was saying how my son is so mannerable because one of the guys who used to wrestle at McNair, my sons go there. And so he was saying how, man, your son is so mannerable. He's such a good kid. Man, I know him. I know the other twin. Both of those guys are real good kids. And the first thing I told him was, man, hey, I appreciate that. Because I don't want my kids going out there cussing kids out. I don't want my kids doing anything bad to where they got to get back to me, because then it's a problem. Even my son was in elementary. He was acting up in class. I told him, excuse me, if you have an issue with your teacher and it comes back to me, you're getting in trouble. Because I don't condone kids acting up in class. So it's going to be an issue for me. So, drink some water. So, I appreciate that, he let me know my son is on the up and up, good behavior. And that's the thing. A lot of kids, man, so disrespectful. And, when it comes down to it, yeah, it's dumb, but we, as great parents, try to discipline our kids, show our kids the right thing, the right way to go. But so many of their friends, try to lead them astray. And so we have to put them back in their place. We have to, show them, hey, this ain't the way to go. This ain't the way to be. My sons, they do listen to their father, and, they do the right thing. But hey, some type of discipline. And my grandparents, my grandma always said, if I don't teach you, the police gonna teach you. And you don't want the police to teach your kids. It says drinking better. Yeah, I just swallowed something down the wrong way. But yeah, I always, I'm big on making my kids do right and be respectable, because at the end of the day, man, it sets the tone, and actually I've been talking so much tonight, man, I know my throat is going to be hoarse in the morning. yelling, talking, you know, like I said, the egos get in there, man. We was arguing about who was the best in the weight class, who did what, who was this, who was that, who gave hell, who made people pay. And so, man, my voice is that of that, man, right now. And, gotta go with the honey and lemon when I get home, most definitely. And, soothe this throat. But, just pulling up to the house ain't really come on that long, man. Like I said, man, just feeling good, nice. We had the conversation, talk. My coach, man, he was excited. Talked to a lot of guys, man. A lot of the guys, man, I'm telling you, we had like 3 or 4 kids that was in the military that he talked to on video chat. You know, he was, overjoyed to where, 2 of his state champs, they're in the military now. You know, colonels in the military. First sergeant, whatever that is, and whatever second sergeant, whatever, but in the military, doing good. And kudos to them. They my brothers, they my little brothers because they up under me. But shout out to them, man. And like I said, man, it's just great to see all the guys, all the coaches, refs, end up buying them guys some cigars because I know they smoke cigars. I don't even really smoke cigars, man, but just give him his flowers, man, being a great coach all these years. The money wasn't even worth it, man. I could have spent more. The money I spent on that, man, like I said, it was an awesome, phenomenal guy. He kept me out of trouble, did things the right way, and my coach would always say, it goes beyond the mat. And that's what happened. When it came down to it, I did more beyond the mat. I was helping out with wrestling, teaching the young kids up under me, you know, giving my, time when I should be working and making more money. Now I'm doing it now, but more or less when I first got out of wrestling, that's all I could do, man, was, give my time back because that's what they gave to me. They gave me that time and being, a better person. But shout out, man, to everybody that came through. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm just getting home now. Yep. But like I said, man, had a great time with them guys, man. Turn these lights off. Oh, man, it was fun. A lot of arguing. Like I said, man, it was a lot of back and forth, man. We was all, to the point. Who's the best? Who's this? Who's that? But it was good. And oh yeah, go check out my interview I had. I shared on my community tab. Yep. Yeah, I went to Columbia High School. Yeah, man. Went to Columbia High School, in Decatur. Yep. Pretty good, man. Um, I went there from 98 to 2002. You know, good years, man. Damn near everybody know me from Columbia. Going into any school in DeKalb County from, that actually was in sports, especially wrestling, but anybody to the point was closely in sports, football and stuff. I played football, ran track, did that. I was pretty big in that, man. So a lot of people who was around the area of wrestling, they all know me from wrestling, man. I was a dude with the crazy hair, was beating kids up, no problem, real easy. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. 98. Okay. So you was around the time a couple of people I know, they was actually at the party that, graduated around that time. I had a guy, John Bell, he won state, I think it was 97. And he got second in state, 96. Yep. He was there. There was a couple of people there. Chauncey, he graduated from Columbia same time, 97. And, he did good. Didn't win state, but yeah, did good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you, man. Hey, you really, you really secretive. I know you won at Columbia though. Yeah, but yeah, man. Around that time. But yeah, man. Like I said, I'm about to get on in the house, but man, it was an awesome time, man. I had a great time with all the guys. Kicked it with them. Couldn't want for nothing better. Seeing my little sisters. My coach had all his, three of his daughters, his youngest son. Everybody reminisced, talked junk, talked about hurting, breaking. Right now, girl wrestling is big. If girl wrestling was that big when my coach daughters were growing up, they all would have probably been state champs because they was always around us and we was beating up on them. And we didn't beat them up bad because they were girls, so we had to tender wrestle them and we'll let them beat us up. And that was the thing. They grew up in it, so it was only thing that they got into it and had fun with it as well. But shout out to everybody. And I say peace out. We here, we go.